Tina, you fat lard, come eat your dinner. Gets them every time.
I couldn't do an alpaca noise, so that will have to do.
That's what I sound like in the McDonald's drive-thru.
At 3 a.m. after a night of binge drinking.
Sir, do you have the app?
Welcome. Oh, we didn't do that last episode. I just realized. Welcome to Crips and Corks.
We didn't even introduce ourselves.
I'm your host, DJ.
Honestly.
Here with my co-host,
Paul, as usual. And honestly, I apologize for
You were
the
so
flatwoods.
busy.
Yeah.
You were so busy telling me, we've got so much to get through.
Right. Honestly, I apologize for the Flatwoods monster. That was on me, girl. We'll just skip past that one. Maybe we'll revisit the Flatwoods monster another time and, give her another go around.
No, it was a really good story.
It is a really good story.
You're still dealing with the after effects of your cold. It's fine.
Yeah. And we are still a week out from our live show. We don't have to
While we
promote
record, it's 2 weeks past now when you're seeing this.
Right. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because we will give you the lowdown of how we felt about the live show afterwards. We're not going to tell you what happened.
3 weeks after.
Right, exactly. So you have to wait for 3 weeks, and then we'll tell y'all what went down, what happened, our thoughts, our what was going down, and getting back up in the gig. But, how was my week? Thank you, DJ, for asking. I know it's like pulling teeth to get you to ask me anything these days.
You could have asked me how my week was in 80 episodes. You have probably asked me how my week is going first once.
That's because I have something called priorities.
Oh.
And that's my priorities.
You know, the funnier joke would be, you see, the thing is, DJ, I don't care.
That would have been funnier. We'll get that one next time. We'll keep that in mind for next time.
How was your week, Paul?
Honestly, I have realized, after I was sick, deathly ill, I have realized, how real the man flu is. Because when I'm sick, Now, do you know what the man flu is?
Yes.
It's when men are very dramatic when they're sick. And I am a very dramatic person when I am sick, right? I feel like I'm dying. The whole time I am sick, I am basically picturing my death, how the people are going to be at my hospital bed. This is it. I take the man flu to the next level. I go 0 to 100, okay? I picture the craziest situations, and I just, I have a little cold and I'm dying. So when I'm actually sick, when I had the flu, I am, I don't even know what I'm like. I'm fucking crazy. I realized that because I was picturing all sorts of scenarios in bed while I was lying in there sick. I was picturing what if someone broke in and stabbed me 4 times? How would I wake up in the hospital bed? What if I call my manager and I'm delusional and I'm saying the wrong days and all sorts of crazy scenarios? There's a lot going on up here, especially when I'm sick. And it's crazy to think about how real the man flu is and how crazy I am.
And this is why Paul does not do drugs.
Exactly. Because if I did drugs, it would not be good for anyone, okay?
You know, when I was in college, I knew somebody who, just from drinking a little too much alcohol, once jumped out of a 3rd floor window.
And that man, Lindsay Lohan.
Yes. But that would be you on drugs. You'd be like, they're after me.
Right. I have too much anxiety as it is to be taking no drugs. I can't be doing all that, girl. We can't be doing all that.
Also, they were the suicide windows that only opened this much, so how he fit himself through that, I want to know.
See, I appreciate the determination there. That determination, iconic.
I don't know how he did it, because apparently, somebody said, oh, the police are here, and he decided he was going to jump out the window to escape. I don't know how he got it open that quickly. Anyways.
How was your week, DJ?
Well, I was at a dorm party and the police were there and I jumped out a 3rd floor window. No, my week was fine. Nothing too interesting did happen to me. I am the healthy one for once.
Right.
Which is nice. And I don't know. I'm just thinking about pizza.
Oh, I love some pizza. One thing about me, I love fast food, pizza, and hot guys.
Wings.
I love wings too. Oh my god.
That might be the move for after this.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. Was there anything else you'd like to add for your week before I give you the lowdown on pop culture?
No.
Alrighty. So actually, this week's pop culture corner is close to home. Something I saw on the internet that I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
So people are theorizing that there's an active serial killer in Pittsburgh right now.
The smiley face killer.
The smiley face killer?
Yeah.
I didn't read about the smiley face killer. I was reading about how, like, students are, like, being found dead. They're being reported missing, and then they're coming up dead. So they think that there's, like, a serial killer who's attacking, or... What's that word? Not attacking, but... Targeting, yes! Target, like the store. Thank you, DJ. They're targeting students, right? Mm-hmm. And they're getting them while they're drunk and impaired, right? Mm-hmm. And then killing them and throwing them in the various rivers we have around. And if you know anything about Pittsburgh, there's a lot of students here. There's a lot of schools.
Or regular students?
What?
Gay students or regular students?
Well, I know there's, like, gay students being, like... Well, gay people being, like, targeted as well. But I think this is different. Because, like, the... articles I read, they didn't say anything about gayness. They just said students.
Okay, because there is also a theorized serial killer who's targeting young gay men who kills them, and then their bodies are found in the river, normally around with graffiti of smiley faces, thus the smiley face killer.
Yo, that's so creepy. How did I not come across that? I'm glad you read that.
Okay, because the media isn't really covering it. Like, every once in a while you hear, like, oh, the body of a gay man was found fished out of the river.
Right.
He's been missing for X number of months. But nobody's really... The media's not pushing the agenda of it's probably one attacker, like, targeting the gay community.
You know, we could have been reading about the same thing, and the news articles I read might not have just been mentioning that they were gay, you know?
That could be.
Not just, like, bringing up the gay thing, because, you know, like, major news outlets sometimes don't bring that shit up. But that's really interesting. You brought a whole new level to that story. I appreciate that. Now, I think I have some theories who the serial killer is, right? Mm-hmm. It is Pittsburgh. And I think we all know the real serial killer in Pittsburgh. Heart disease.
Okay.
I mean, we're out here putting French fries on salads.
That we are. And on sandwiches.
Yeah.
We've all been to Bimani's.
That's the real serial killer in Pittsburgh. Well, that and diabetes. But no, it really is a really serious, very interesting story. And I think the serial killer might just be ramping up, because if you know anything about killers...
They do ramp up.
Yeah, at first they keep it spaced out, but then as they kill more, they lose the adrenaline rush, and they, like, from just doing it once, they have
to do it, and also they lose the sense of inhibition.
Exactly.
Because they keep getting away with it.
Exactly. They feel like they're invincible, so they start killing more and more. So if we see more people starting to ramp up, then we know there's definitely a serial killer. But I feel like we're in the phase where he's like, he, she, or they are just like getting started, because it is so spaced out. They don't need that same adrenaline rush. The adrenaline hasn't worn off from just killing one person. Did I explain that okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Period.
It made me think.
Yeah. So if you're in the Pittsburgh area, be safe. And that is my pop culture corner for today.
I need a drink after that.
What are we drinking today?
This week we are drinking a Pinot Noir from Promises de France. Our promise is to offer authentic French wines produced in accordance with the ancient regional winemaking traditions, which are a true expression of their grape variety and terroir, and offer a unique gastronomic experience. This blend of grapes from different areas of France combines the fruit forwardness from the northern region with the structure and balance of the southern soils.
Ooh.
And it is a vin classique de France, a classic wine of France.
Parlez-vous le français?
Oui, je parle français.
We gotta get the...
Oh, sorry, I gotta do the crack. Not a very good crack, but...
Are you happy to be in Paris?
Oui.
That's a Beyonce reference. In the not music video, just the regular song Partition by Beyonce.
Oh, wait, I thought it was the... Nikki, are you happy to be in Paris?
Is that what she says in that song?
Oui.
Oh, she says we in the song?
No, it's like a clip from, like, Vine.
What I'm talking about is the Beyonce song.
No, it was like Nicki Minaj was like in France and like a reporter said, "Nicki, are you happy to be in Paris?" And there was a pause and she goes, "Oui." Like really, like very short, very like kind of aggressively.
I'm gonna have to look up that video.
Okay.
That sounds funny.
It's more like a TikTok sound. Like I don't even know if it's like a real thing or not. Anyways, ASMR pour.
Smells like sauce. Speaking of sauce, I tried that Minecraft sauce
Okay.
at McDonald's. It's sriracha. Don't waste your time.
Okay, thank you for the update.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Holy, that is... You first, and then I'll give my opinion.
I don't think it's that bad.
I think that is one of the worst things to ever grace my lips.
Really? We had a Pinot Noir 2 weeks ago, and it tastes fairly similar.
Let me try one more time. I don't like that. That doesn't taste good. I don't know what's wrong with it, but I'm not vibing with it. Okay, the girls and the dolls are not up in that gig. Do not get that one.
I mean, the smell, it does not have a nice smell, but like the taste, I'm going to give it like a 4.
I'm going to give it 1 grape. That's really bad.
Okay.
I hate that. Don't waste your time.
I'm sorry, Paul.
Girl, what's this shit called again?
Promoces de France.
Promotes de font. Promote de vent. The French are going to be so mad at me after this episode.
Yes, they are.
I'm so excited.
You've alienated the Irish. Alienated the Italians.
I'm just checking off.
Now the French. You're just conquering Europe. And speaking of conquering Europe, Paul, let me tell you a story.
Let's get into it.
He was one of the greatest generals to have ever lived. Stories of his conquest have echoed down the corridors of time. In his short life, he rose from impoverished minor nobility to become a great emperor who held nearly half of Europe within his grip. But what not many people know is that all of this may have come from a Faustian deal. Was he the great conqueror, or did he make a deal with the devil? Let's find out as we discuss Napoleon and the Little Red Man of Destiny.
Ooh. Now, was that short thing, was that supposed to be a joke on purpose? Because if you know anything...
No, he actually died at the age of either 51 or 56.
Oh.
So when you consider what he achieved in his life,
Well, I was referring to his height.
Yeah.
Because if you know anything about
he
Napoleon...
actually wasn't that short. He was only 5'6".
Oh.
Which was slightly, that's...
I thought he was a lot shorter.
That's, short to us, because I'm 5'8", which is the average. Back then, 5'7" was the average. Or 5'6" and a half, 5'7" was the average. So he was slightly under average.
See, all the cartoons and such make him seem a lot shorter than that. But I guess it is cartoons and they're doing it for the bit. Okay. 5'6" really isn't that bad. Yeah. I mean...
Well, it goes back to, because of his conquest, he was very hated in Europe. And it actually started with the English newspapers. They started to... So they made... At the time, they would do propaganda and they would make a very caricature-esque image of Napoleon, and one of them was short, and it reached Napoleon. And it got back to England that he was furious that he was portrayed as being so short. So the newspapers started doing it to piss him off.
As they should.
And that's where the legend came from.
Okay. That makes more sense. That's so funny. Yeah. That poor dude. The original short king.
Yes.
Well, maybe not king, because didn't he...
He was an emperor.
Emperor, okay.
He was a king too, but that was different.
But I don't think we stand him, because didn't he do some bad things?
We're going to discuss that. Let's get into the story.
Let's get into it.
So, Napoleon Bonaparte was born into a minor Tuscan noble family living in Corsica in 1769. 69?! Do you know where Corsica is, Paul?
Do I look?
No, you don't.
No, I don't know where fucking Corsica is.
Corsica is a small island in the Mediterranean that is up in that little armpit, like between the coast of France and the coast of Italy.
Okay.
And now, he was born... His parents were Carlo Maria Bonaparte, who had fought for Corsican independence the year before he was born, and who later became the island's representative to the court of King Louis XVI of France, and Maria Letizia Romolino. And now, so what had happened a year before Napoleon's birth was Corsica moved from Italian control to French control.
Okay.
And during that time, there was a movement to become an independent nation. And his father initially fought with a guy, I forget his first name, but his last name was Paoli, who was fighting for Corsican independence. But when it became obvious that he was going to lose, Carlo switched sides to the French and later became like ambassador for the island to France.
Okay.
And that really helped. That move really made Napoleon's life so much easier, because if his father would have stayed a Corsican nationalist, nothing that Napoleon did would have happened.
Interesting.
Now, Napoleon was the second of 7 siblings. Joseph Napoleon, then Lucien, Elisa, Louis, Pauline, and Jerome.
I like the name Louis.
There's going to be a lot of Louis in this.
Oh, jeez. Okay, let's get into it.
And it should be noted that this is the French Louis, so it's spelled Louis.
Like Louis, but they
pronounce...
Yes,
but it's Louis.
Oui.
When he was 9, he moved to the French mainland to enroll in school to perfect his French so that he could enroll in a military school.
Wait, what did he grow up speaking?
Corsican. He was from Corsica. And he spoke Corsican.
I thought that was part of France, though.
It was recently, like the year before he was born, it became France.
Okay, interesting. So he was speaking Corsican, which sounds like a made-up language. I'll have to fact-check that one.
I mean, technically any language is made up.
You got me there. Okay, you got me there.
In 1785, he graduated and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the 1st Regiment Artillery. But he was not thrilled with this, and he spent much of his time on leave to visit his family in Corsica. You look like you had something to say.
No.
Just jump in at any point here. When the French Revolution broke out in 1789, he returned to Corsica to rally the people to join the revolt and demand freedom to France. But when Paoli returned from exile, that Corsican nationalist, he rejected Napoleon and said, I don't want you to be part of this because your dad turned on me.
Damn, that's rough. Getting turned away from the revolution when you're all hyped about it.
And I read, Napoleon spent, from his time in military school up until this point, he was very, pro-Corsican nationalist and wanted to, free his island nation. And then this happened. He went back to France and he joined the French Revolution.
Well, hey, if you're gonna, not let him join, what did they expect? Him to just sit around? No, he's gonna join something. Sometimes it's just nice to be a part of something. That's why I joined a fraternity and paid for all of my friends in college.
Aren't you so glad you don't have to pay for me?
I'm paying in other ways.
Well, if you were paying for French, you would not have me because I am cheap.
Wouldn't the joke be like, I wouldn't have you because you're expensive?
No, you could afford if you were paying money, you would not take me.
But if I was paying money and you were cheap, why wouldn't I?
Because I'm so cheap, you would
But why would I want to pay more?
If you were paying for French, you wouldn't have me because I'm so cheap. I'm like that 7-Eleven hot dog that's lying on the ground.
Okay, before you said the laying on the ground part, I was going to say, I love 7-Eleven taquitos.
I'm a 7-Eleven hot dog that's laying on the ground outside as you're going in to get a bag of Cheetos. You're not picking up that hot dog.
Yeah, you got me there. Okay, I see what you're saying now.
Also, so as part of the French Revolution, Napoleon eventually returned with the French army to try and recapture Corsica. And when that did not fail, the Corsican government outlawed him and his entire family from living there, and they all had to flee to mainland France.
I guess there could be worse places to flee.
That's true. In 1793, he was instrumental in recapturing the port city of Toulon for the Republican forces and was soon made a commander and sent to lead expeditions into Italy. This was soon followed by other prestigious appointments, such as commanding troops to suppress an uprising in Paris, protecting the National Assembly. In 1796, he began to use the French form of his name, Napoleon Bonaparte, and married Josephine de Beauharnais, an aristocratic widow, and was made commander of a campaign to conquer Italy while becoming increasingly influential in French politics. In 1797, Napoleon was made head of the forces intended for an invasion of England and decided the French Navy was not up to taking on the prestigious Royal Navy and instead moved his forces to Egypt to interfere with Britain's trade with India. But the Egyptian campaign did not go well.
Okay, just real quick, I just want to say, so far this is kind of like an inspiring story. He started not even being French, not even being a part of that country, being from another country. Mm-hmm. He moves to a new country, works his way up, and becomes like a commander and shit.
Yeah.
So far, this is a pretty inspiring story.
Right.
You can work towards anything and, make it happen.
Truly. Now, the Egyptian campaign did not go well because he did win a couple battles, but the problem was he was fighting against native Egyptians who were either aligned with the Ottoman Empire in Turkey or the British.
And, the Egyptians, they built those pyramids, so they're a rough and tumble bunch.
And so he would win a battle and be like, this is my land, and then 3 days later, the same Egyptians he beat would just come back.
They're a rough and tumble people.
Because he was also trained in European manner of fighting, and this was Middle Eastern.
Probably more like a guerrilla surprise. Yes, there aren't as many rules.
Exactly that. And there's only so much you can do with cannons and bayonets.
Right. Yeah.
Because in Europe, you lose a battle, you retreat. The Egyptians just kept coming back.
And you know what? I appreciate that about the Egyptians. They have a lot of tenacity. They built the pyramids, unless you believe the ancient aliens theory.
I don't.
I don't know what to believe.
Now, one day, Napoleon was in his tent when in front of him appeared a small man clad entirely in red.
And that man
was Lindsay Lohan.
Thank you.
Lindsay Lohan. No, just kidding. The little man told Napoleon that he had followed him since childhood and knew him better than he knew himself.
This is cool. Okay, this so far already. Okay, you haven't even gotten. Keep going. This is cool.
He also warned Napoleon that the French Navy had disobeyed his orders and the Egyptian campaign would end in failure. Napoleon flew into a rage and tried to cast the devil out. Napoleon was notoriously very suspicious. Oh. But soon after, Napoleon learned that the little red man was right, and the French Navy had attempted to take on the Royal Navy and lost amid his continuing losses in Egypt. Soon after this, the little red man returned to Napoleon, who asked how he knew what would come to pass. The little man told him that he was well known to the rulers of France and had advised them, and now had come to advise him.
Did Napoleon say this?
No, the little red man told Napoleon this.
Who told the people about the red man? Did Napoleon tell people?
People witnessed him.
People witnessed this red man?
Yes.
Why was he red?
He wasn't red. He was dressed in red.
Oh, he was dressed. This is giving, like, Antichrist shit. Like,
well, you want to hear what's crazier?
Yeah.
The little red man was not lying about appearing to the other rulers of France and advising them. He was first noted all the way back in the 1500s. 300 years before. It was during the construction of the Tuileries Palace in Paris. He was spotted by Queen Marie de Medici, who was the widow of King Henry II and mother of Kings Francis II, IX, and Francis II, Charles IX, and Henry III, who was notoriously very superstitious. She brought, like, fortune tellers with her from Italy.
This is blowing my mind right now.
Catherine described him as a gnome-like creature dressed entirely in blood red, and said there was no way that he was flesh and blood, and that he was an omen of evil or the devil himself.
Oh my god, that is giving, like, Lucifer or whoever's, like, coming to, like, make his will happen. Oh my, and he was seen for, like, 300 years, you said?
Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing. Queen Catherine de Medici saw him. Already in France at the time, there was deep unrest between the Catholics and the Protestant Huguenots. And soon Catherine, who was a staunch Catholic, her uncle was the Pope, forced her son, I think it was Charles, to order a massacre of the Protestants in Paris.
So, he's encouraging destruction, like...
Since then, Le Petit Homme Rouge de Destin, or the Little Red Man of Destiny, was spotted near France's rulers as a forewarning of tragedy and disaster.
That is so crazy, bitch.
Henry IV would be the next monarch to spot the man in 1610, the morning he was assassinated.
Girl, we need one of those for our presidents. Girl, we just got the Simpsons prediction shit. We need a little red man.
In 1789, several chambermaids were startled when they began to make the bed of King Louis XVI, only for the little red man to leap out of the bed sheets.
Kinky. Hot. Did you get that Simpsons joke?
Yes, I did.
How they predict shit.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, that shit's wild, which maybe we'll do a whole episode on that.
We will. On the 9th of August, 1792, Louis XVI's wife, Marie Antoinette, met the little red man in a corridor of the Tuileries. The following day, an angry mob stormed the palace, took the royal family hostage, and abolished the monarchy. In October of 1793, guards outside of Marie Antoinette's cell saw the little red man walking shortly before she was sent to the guillotine to be executed.
Girl, this red man isn't sitting right with me, girl. Wait, are the French, they're Catholic?
They're Catholic. There are some Protestants, but it is a fairly majority Catholic.
So they're a Christian nation.
Yes.
Okay. So this would be the devil in their lore, the Lucifer, a demon, or something of the sort. Yes. Okay, interesting.
And he was, like, known throughout Paris, like Le Petit Homme Rouge.
Le Petit Rouge.
Le Petit.
Le Petit
Homme
Rouge.
Rogue.
Le Petit Homme Rogue.
I thought you were going to try and do that French joke where, like, you said it perfectly right after me, and then I said, put it all together. Poo-poo-poo-poo.
See, that would work. However, I can't say it perfectly to begin with.
You were doing pretty fine.
Le Petit Homme Rouge. Well, we can't be doing this.
We're going to lose time.
Yes.
Now, everyone has heard the saying, don't make a deal with the devil. Except for Napoleon, apparently.
Ooh, girl.
Because the Little Red Man informed Napoleon that when he returned to France, he would find England, Russia, and Turkey allied against the country. But he had a proposition for Napoleon. The Little Red Man would help Napoleon win victories across Europe for 10 years, and then Napoleon would have to stop conquering and bring peace to the continent. Napoleon agreed.
Well, of course he agreed. He said, because there's nothing bad about what this agreement was so far. I mean, he's letting him.
He's truly like, it. You know what a Faustian deal is, correct?
Hell no, I don't.
So, it's a very old story of Dr. Faust, who made a deal with the devil to become young so that he could woo this young girl that he'd fallen in love with.
Mm-hmm.
But so he sold his soul to become young, but then he got Margarita, the girl he was in love with, pregnant and left her by accident, and she killed the baby and got executed for murder. So basically, like, he sold his soul for, like, 5 minutes of happiness.
He leave the girl? He left the girl, so...
The devil, like, took him away.
Okay, I don't get
There's
that
a whole
story.
opera. We'll watch it.
I'm not watching no goddamn opera. But so far, this deal Napoleon
Yeah,
made,
there's no, like, downside.
Exactly. There's no downside that I'm seeing here.
There's no give me your soul.
Exactly.
Now, Napoleon returned to France to learn that the country was at threat of being invaded by England, Russia, and Turkey.
Oh, damn. I've been invaded by Turkey before. Make you real sleepy.
He moved swiftly against the unpopular government, and with the help of his brother Lucien, who was the president of the Council of the 500, overthrew the old government and installed himself as the first consul of France.
Okay.
As consul, Napoleon set up a dictatorship and established peace between France and the rest of Europe, revitalized the economy, and reintroduced slavery.
Not that.
Did you really think that he was the hero of this story?
Well, no, because I know a little bit about Napoleon, and I know he wasn't a great guy.
Yes, so I had to throw that in there in case any of you thought he was the hero of the story.
No, he was a bad person.
Now, Napoleon was not satisfied with being a mere dictator and wanted to have the respect of the great dynasties of Europe. So he moved to have himself made Emperor of France. In 1805, which he did in 1804, in 1805, he crowned himself King of Italy, drawing the ire of the Austrian Empire, who had territory in Italy, who then joined Sweden, Britain, Russia, Naples, and the Ottoman Empire in a coalition to oppose him. Napoleon was not daunted by this, because he had the Little Red Man of Destiny on his side, and set out to conquer the rest of Europe, toppling governments and installing his siblings and allies on the thrones of Europe. And when I say he was installing his siblings as on the thrones of Europe, I mean it. First he made his older brother Joseph, first he made him King of Naples, and then King of Spain.
You just do that? Like, how do you just walk into a country and be like, oh, I'm king now?
You destroy them in a battle and you get their royal family to flee, and then you go, hey, Joseph, I got you a palace.
This is mine now.
Joseph is actually a friend of the pod. Some of you will remember us discussing him on the Jersey Devil episode, when after Napoleon fell from grace, he moved to New Jersey and shot at the Jersey Devil.
I don't know. I wouldn't call him a friend of the pod.
Joseph didn't do anything wrong other than listen to his little brother.
But he was still complicit. And that doesn't sit right with me.
Okay, anyways. Louis was placed on the throne of Holland. Jerome was placed on the throne of Westphalia. Elisa was installed as Grand Duchess of Tuscany and Princess of Lucca and Piombino.
Piombino isn't a real place.
Pauline was installed as Princess and Duchess of Guastalla. Now, if you will notice, none of his siblings helped him rise to power except for Lucien. And Lucien is the only one who didn't get a payoff because Lucien helped him become dictator, and then said, actually, I don't agree with your policies, and had to flee into exile.
Well, he made it that far. Why didn't he just stick around, you know?
I know, like, you put him in power. Like, why not get a throne for yourself?
Right, you put in all the fucking work. Why leave when it's starting to get good?
Now, it was also during this time when the Little Red Man was noted by those closest to Napoleon. When Napoleon was staying at the Schloss Schönbrunn in Vienna, his trusted general, Jean Rapp, came to see him and burst into his rooms unannounced to discuss war plans, and found the emperor staring intently out the window. Rapp entered the room and purposely bumped into a chair to make enough noise that the emperor would notice him, but Napoleon did not move. Rapp rushed to his side, fearing that the emperor was in some kind of faint. And without moving his eyes from the sky, Napoleon grabbed Rapp's arm and asked him if he saw the red star of destiny, almost as bright and brilliant as the moon. He went on to tell the general the star never left him and often appeared to him as a little red man.
Okay, that's giving a little schizophrenic. It's giving, like, seeing shit that isn't there.
Yes, but...
People have seen the red man, though. It's just, like, when he describes it as a red star... Like, saying, like, oh, didn't you see the red star? And he's, like, just staring intently, like, in some sort of trance. It's giving, like, schizophrenia. It's giving, like, maybe he was in a trance or something, which I know schizophrenia and being in a magical trance are two different things, but I don't know. It gave schizophrenia for a
little bit. But much has been discussed about Napoleon's superstitions. He and Josephine were both not native French. He was born in Corsica. She was born in the Caribbean. And they grew up superstitious because that was just the nature of where they grew up. France at this time was far more enlightened, like the period of enlightenment, moving towards science and away from like superstitions and religion, right, where they grew up in more colonial places.
Okay.
Josephine often told him before they got married, they speak of your star, but is really mine which sways your destiny. Which is uncanny since shortly after he divorced her, his luck seemed to turn around. So like he married her and he started like on a winning streak, and then he divorced her and he started to lose.
Okay, I got you now. Okay.
Josephine was also noted to go to many psychics in Paris and report back to Napoleon on what they said. And she actually joked once that, like, he confronted her because the police had reported that she'd gone to see a psychic. And she said, oh, don't worry, the psychic said you'd win this battle. And then he was like, okay, that's fine. But if you go again, I'm going to have the psychic arrested for going against Catholicism. It was like a joke between them.
Mm-hmm.
He was also noted to wear a shabby gray overcoat that he had worn the day of one of his greatest victories to important occasions, meaning that he would look really shabby and unclean next to his generals who were in their nice uniforms and all of their medals. One of his greatest hobbies was to dim the lights and tell ghost stories by the fire. He loved doing this.
Bitch, that's just what we're doing.
Truly. Now, on the eve of his coronation as emperor, he gave Josephine a book and asked her to read a specific passage, and she was startled by what it said. And I'm going to read that to you now.
Okay.
Italy will see a supernatural being arise from kindred stock. This man will come in his youth out of the sea. He will adopt the language and manners of the Celto-Gauls. Corsica was an island in the sea, formerly Italy. The Celto-Gauls is France.
Okay.
While still young and in spite of untold obstacles, he will have a brilliant career and become a great commander. Years of arduous toil and struggle will follow. He will be constantly at war. He will give laws to the Germans and the chaos in Gaul, and finally be made king. Thereupon, he will assume the title of emperor.
And that's everything he did, girl. Girl, that's crazy. Girl, there's some validation. I do believe in some sidekicks. I believe in, like...
This wasn't a book that was written, 200 years before he was born.
See, that's crazy to me. I do believe in sightseeing, and I believe in... whatever Raven was doing on that Disney Channel show where she was like, exactly. I think people do be seeing the future sometimes, which I see the future all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You ever seen that show, Phil the Future?
Yes.
It's crazy.
Anyways, we'll come back to this in a little bit.
Okay.
In 1809, Napoleon was waging war in Austria because, remember, the Austrians were not happy about him taking their territory. When the Little Red Man of Disney returned to him, he reminded the emperor of their deal where he would have 10 years of uninterrupted victories and bid Napoleon to call a truce and return to France and restore peace to Europe. Napoleon begged the little man for more time to finish his campaigns. The Little Red Man agreed to give him 5 more years on the condition he would never invade Russia.
Ooh. And I guess, I don't know this story, but I'm guessing he eventually invades Russia because they usually make stupid mistakes like that.
Now, Napoleon set work and made peace with Austria. He then returned to Paris and divorced his beloved wife Josephine, who never gave him a son and heir.
Did she give him daughters, though?
No.
Oh,
So, like I said, she was married before. She had a son and a daughter with her first husband, who was killed during the Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
But because she was an aristocrat by marriage, she was locked up too. And she was older than Napoleon by like 4 years.
Okay.
So they think that her age, as well as... So they think that the stresses of being in prison during the Revolution led to sort of like an early onset menopause where, like, by the time they got married, she could no longer have children.
Okay.
Like, her body just couldn't sustain it.
Okay.
He soon married the Archduchess Marie Louise of Austria, who was a niece of the slain Queen Marie Antoinette.
Slay.
This entire story should just be called The French Revolution, A Lesson in Irony.
Honestly.
Because what's more ironic than, let's just bring a niece of the queen we aided to be our new empress. He consolidated his rule over 40% of Europe's population, which did not jive well with Emperor Alexander I of Russia.
I wonder fucking why.
Mostly because part of what Napoleon took was he conquered Poland and established the Grand Duchy of Warsaw, which up until this point, Poland, if it was not independent, was split between Austria and Russia.
Okay.
And do you know what it also shared a border with?
Germany.
Russia!
Oh. You already said Russia, though.
I know, but here's the thing. He conquered this land, which borders you, and he seems to have an insatiable appetite for conquest. What's to stop him from crossing that border?
Okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Now, Napoleon apparently never heard about deals with the devil, and he also didn't hear about breaking rules and contracts. Because what did the Little Red Man tell him not to do?
Invade Russia.
In 1812, what did Napoleon do?
Guess he fucking invaded Russia.
He invaded Russia. It did not go well. Because do you know what Russia has on its side?
Winter?
Yes!
I'm so shocked I got that right. I said that as a joke.
Literally, he invaded Russia in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And was like, don't worry, we'll take them out in winter. And then realized, France is a temperate country. Russia is not.
Yeah, Russia's cold as shit.
So, the invasion did not go well. And Napoleon was forced to retreat and soon faced battles across Europe as the nations not under his control sought to reduce his power. He began to face a number of humiliating defeats as his enemies tried to cede his conquered lands outside of France. It was during this time the Little Red Man visited Napoleon for the last time in January of 1914. He appeared in the halls of the Tuileries to State Councillor Molay and demanded to see the Emperor. Molay informed the visitor the Emperor did not wish to be disturbed, but the man insisted. Upon hearing of the little red man's arrival, Napoleon ordered he be let in, and Molay listened as the emperor begged through tears that the little red man give him more time.
Well, you don't always get more time. There's only so much time, girl.
The little red man agreed to give him 3 months to restore peace to Europe, or else he would lose everything. Napoleon wailed it was not enough time, but accepted nonetheless. Napoleon continued to fight for control of Europe for 3 months. On April the 2nd, the Imperial Senate, so that was January, 3 months would be March.
Yeah.
So April 2nd, the second day of the 4th month, the Imperial Senate deposed Napoleon, and days later he was forced to abdicate his throne. In the previous months, the Allied nations approached him repeatedly and said he could remain emperor if he would accept the Empire of France being reduced to France and anything he conquered prior to 1804.
And he said no.
And he refused. Now, I want to go back to that prophecy that he made Josephine read.
Okay.
So the last thing I said was, thereupon he will assume the title of emperor. He will do great things for his realm, construct magnificent buildings, ports, canals, waterworks. He alone will accomplish as much as all the Romans. He will have 2 wives and 1 son. In his wars, his campaigns will lead him where the 55th parallel of latitude intersects with the 55th meridian. There his enemies will set fire to a great city. He will enter it with his soldier and again leave the ruins. His men will have neither bread nor water. They will perish in the bitter cold. Finally, this great man, deserted and betrayed by his friends, will be driven into his own capital by a great European army. Banished to an island not far from his native land, he will remain there with his followers for 11 months, after which he will again disembark on Gallo-Celtic soil. Driven out by a European Triple Alliance, in 3½ months, he will be compelled to surrender his throne to the former king. So let's discount what's happened so far to Napoleon and compare it to this prophecy. He did bring great prosperity to his realms. He also had 2 wives and 1 son. His campaigns led him to Russia, which is where the 55th latitude and longitude intersect. And the Russians burned Moscow so that he could not take it. Burned a great city. Nonetheless, he entered it and then retreated in bitter cold when his army had no food or water and perished of the cold.
So the prophecy's coming true to a T.
And then, being deserted and betrayed by his friends, his Secretary of State Talleyrand led the coup. He was driven out. He was exiled from France to the Mediterranean island of Elba, where he learned his former wife and the love of his life, Josephine, died.
Oh, that's sad.
A year later, he returned to France and reclaimed the throne for 100 days before losing to British General the Duke of Wellington at Waterloo. He was then exiled to the island of St. Helena in the middle of the South Atlantic, where he spent the rest of his days staring out at the sea and contemplating his failure to abide by the terms of his deal with the little red man of destiny.
Why would he go against him, though? Like, why would he not listen to the little red man? Everything's came through, true so far. He's given him good deals. Why would he just not freaking listen? This is people's problem. Just listen.
Narcissism. He really, was convinced that he could do whatever.
Well, he obviously... I don't know, girl. It just doesn't make sense to me.
On May the 5th, 1821, Napoleon Bonaparte, former Emperor of France, died, following a long illness with the words, France, l'armée, tête d'armée, Josephine.
And that, of course, translates to save
France.
10% or more on your car insurance by switching to Geico.
No, it translates to France, the army, head of the army, Josephine.
Say that one more time.
In English or French?
What do you fucking think?
France, l'armée. It translates to France, the army, head of the army, Josephine.
And that was his dying words?
Those were his dying words.
That doesn't mean anything.
They don't have to mean anything. They're dying words.
Girl, you could at least said something meaningful.
I just thought it was, like, kind of spooky. Just imagine, like, France, l'armée, tête l'armée, Josephine.
It'd probably be a little more spooky if I was from France.
Probably.
Yeah.
But that's the story of Napoleon and the Little Red Man of Destiny.
So is this account of the Red Man, is this coming from Napoleon himself?
He did mention, in his memoirs, he mentioned the Red Star of Destiny. Mm-hmm. But a number of people in his court did say they saw him. He was noted, the Tuileries, which used to be attached to the Louvre, was his main palace in Paris. And so he was noted as, like, being seen throughout. Like, even if he was not consulting with Napoleon, people would see him. State Councilor Molay signed a sworn affidavit that this little red man appeared to him and demanded to see the emperor, and that he heard that conversation. You have the testimony of General Jean Rapp, who discussed that conversation at the Schönbrunn with him.
Now, the instances of the other royal, like, maybe not royal people, like the people in charge of France,
the rulers, yeah.
Are those coming straight from those people's mouths? Or,
yes.
Okay. See, that's what convinces me.
Or them confiding to other people.
Mm-hmm. Now, did these accounts come out before or after Napoleon?
So, the first account of Napoleon seeing the Little Red Man did come out during his first exile.
No, I mean accounts of the other rulers seeing it.
They came out before Napoleon.
See, that's what convinces me, is it coming straight from the horse's mouth, straight from the other rulers, them seeing it. That is the type of thing that convinces me, and I think that's really spooky.
Now, one source I read compared it to the Nain Rouge, which means red dwarf in France, which is a cryptid or spirit that's located in Michigan, which was stolen by the French from the Native Americans.
Okay.
And so one source I said the French in Michigan were perfectly at ease with the Nain Rouge because they knew of the Red Man of Paris. Which, prior to Napoleon, it was known as the Homme Rouge de Paris, because he was always noted as being seen in Paris talking to the kings of France.
Okay.
And it wasn't till Napoleon called him the Little Red Man of Destiny.
See, that's crazy to me. That's such a crazy story. Like, this sort of little red fortune teller that's probably could be a demon, could be the devil himself. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't even have any theories because it's just, like, wild.
Yeah, because they saw him for 300 years. Like, no one's living for 300 years unless there's something, like, spiritual, otherworldly, paranormal going on. Like, there's something going on there. Like,
now, the only thing that would, like, make it more compelling is if Napoleon's nephew, who is the Emperor Napoleon III, had also seen him because he was the last monarch of France. But, like, he didn't. Or, like, if, like, any of the subsequent... Oh, I forgot to say, Napoleon was replaced. Remember, it was said, like, he'd be replaced by the former king?
Yeah.
When he returned, he deposed Louis XVII, Louis XVIII, who was a brother of Louis XVI, and then was replaced by him after he was removed from power after Waterloo.
Now, didn't Napoleon do a lot of bad things that we didn't get into? Like,
Probably.
and that would make sense. Like, him not being this little red man, not seeing again. Maybe he saw the evil in Napoleon because of the evil things that Napoleon did. It's not coming to my brain right now, like all the things Napoleon did, but
I mean, I'm sure. Oh yes, because whenever he would conquer a city, he would let his soldiers rape and pillage.
Right.
He was also a lot. So he actually started, like, everyone talks about like the British Museum having all of the ancient Egyptian artifacts, but Napoleon started that. In Paris, there is an ancient Egyptian obelisk, which is called Cleopatra's Needle.
Mm-hmm.
Napoleon had his army bring that back to France, along with other ancient Egyptian artifacts. He started the pillaging of Egypt.
Okay.
And then the English took over after his fall, and they continued it, which is still not the right, but, like, France started it.
Right. So what I'm getting at is, like, maybe the little red spirit, the little red man, saw the evilness within, like, Napoleon and the other leaders he was coming to, and saw that, like, they were susceptible, they had, like, some sort of evil in their hearts, and that he could, like, control them in some way to get evil shit done, where the rulers afterwards didn't have the same evil.
I think, okay, that's compelling, but also he only appears to them. So, like, the legend goes, he only appears at time, like, prior to disaster or tragedy. Think Henry was it the 6th or the 4th? I can't remember.
Do you think I know that
I
shit?
can't remember.
No.
Who saw him, but then he was assassinated. He, by all accounts, was a good king.
Mm-hmm.
Henry the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good king. He was beloved.
But then the little red man came as, like, an omen.
Yes.
Well, maybe...
and also Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI, despite what history classes tell us, weren't particularly bad people. They just weren't good at governing.
That could be it too. Or it could be something as simple as maybe the little red man's job was done after Napoleon and he just, like, moved on to do something else.
I think, like, he kind of encouraged Napoleon because he wasn't that born monarch. He had to push him to become a ruler.
Oh.
And I think the thing was because the monarchy was, abolished. With Napoleon, it was like, you need to build this monarchy. And if you think about it, his thing was, like... He probably knew Napoleon, like, okay, you got a decade where you can win all the battles you want, but then you have to, like, bring peace to Europe.
Right.
And Napoleon's failure was to not bring peace. And remember, his last one was, you have 3 months to bring peace to Europe or you lose everything. And during that time, the British came to him and said, like, you can stay emperor, like, we don't care. You just gotta, like, promise to, like, keep in France.
Okay. This is all very interesting. I think it's so interesting, the thought of, like, otherworldly, supernatural beings, like, playing a part in, like, politics and the movements of, like, royalty and presidents and things like that. It makes you wonder if it's, like, happening in other ways.
On our White House episode, did I tell the story about the dream Abraham Lincoln had on the night before he went to Ford's Theater?
I think you did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just as you were saying that popped into my head.
Yeah. No, very interesting. This is going to have my brain a turn in for a while. I'm going to have to look a little bit more into this. This is really interesting.
And I know there's a lot of history, but the thing is, the history was all predicted by the supernatural being.
Which is crazy.
So it was more history, but you had to, like, do the prophecy. Mm-hmm. And then, like, say, like, no, it actually came
Which
true.
makes it so crazy. It's giving Nostradamus a little bit, which is a whole nother episode,
yes.
But...
Oh my god, yeah. Nostradamus, remember how I said Catherine de Medici brought psychics from Italy?
Yeah.
That was Nostradamus.
Oh, shit, that's crazy!
That was...
Not Nostradamus coming in!
He was an advisor to Catherine de Medici.
That's crazy, girl. This is a crazy episode.
The Italian pronunciation is de Medici, not de Medici.
De Medici. Okay.
De Medici.
Period. This is a crazy episode. Yes. This is a crazy story. Why are more people not talking about this? People need to talk about this more.
I had such a hard time. Like, I was, like, trying to avoid blogs, but, like, it was just, like, blogs. And then, like, one of the blogs, like, had its sources, and it was a bunch of old books from, like, 1900.
They're trying to keep this, like, suppressed. The man is trying to keep us down again. They don't want us to be talking about this. This is crazy. I want to say
one thing. Little Red Man of Destiny. We're ready. We'll conquer France.
I think we'd have more luck with the Illuminati.
Illuminati.
For what we're trying to do.
I don't know. I'm doing this thing with my mouth where it's just reminding me of that video of Celine Dion where it's, look, I got no man, I got no woman, I got nobody. It's for me.
Period. I'm not gonna lie to you, I gotta pee so bad, so we gotta wrap this one up.
I guess you've shared your final thoughts. Please let us know what you think. Please like, subscribe, follow. Please email us with your own personal stories. Paul, where can they find you?
You can find me at my personal Instagram and TikTok at Paulember, Paulember. And as usual, guys, it's not delivery, it's de genre, as the French would say.
And if you'd like to follow me, please do so on TikTok or on Instagram at The Real Deej Powers. And until next time, which is French for... No, it's not. That was fake French. Keep your grips tight.
And your corks loose. Bye!
Sacre bleu! I am Napoleon! I am France!